Welcome to my channel. In this video, we're going to go through everything you need to know about bearded dragons as pets. Bearded dragons are becoming one of the most popular reptiles on the market today, which is why we made this guy, so you can have all the knowledge you need before bringing your new dragon home. This video will cover the following topics. How do you get a bearded dragon? Where do you get them from? What are they like as pets? How big do they grow? How long do they live? What are some common health problems that they're prone to? And lastly, how much do they cost? I recommend that you watch this video if you already have a bearded dragon or are thinking about getting one in the future. Let's jump right into it. How do you get a bearded dragon? The only way to obtain a bearded dragon is by purchasing one. You cannot adopt them from shelters because no one surrenders their pets to shelters. They're either bred in captivity in mass, usually by large breeders, or caught in the wild, usually by smaller breeders. It's important to support ethical breeders who don't contribute to the overpopulation of bearded dragons. In the pet industry, it is also good to try to buy from a small breeder when possible, because buying from a larger mass mill type operation contributes to mass production and inhumane breeding practices. If you have the time, energy, and money, you can even breed your own bearded dragons. But until then, buying from an ethical breeder is the next best option. What are they like as pets? Bearded dragons are well known for being docile, calm, and friendly. They make great pets for first-time reptile owners because they're easy to care for. Most of them enjoy handling and become very tame. They're called bearded dragons because of the spiky scales on their chins, which are more prominent on the males than the females. Bearded dragons come in many different colors and patterns, including hypo, melanistic, trans, lutino, leatherback, and I'm sure there's a few others I forgot to mention here. There are also a lot of different morphs, which is just a fancy word for genetically altered colors or traits. A morph is basically a mutation in the gene pool that creates an entirely new trait that is found naturally. As of right now, there are too many morphs to list here, but you can look them up online if you'd like to learn more about them. How big do they get? Bearded dragons can vary in size depending on their gender and genetics. Females are usually smaller than males and can reach around 18 inches in length. Males are typically bigger than females and can grow anywhere between 20 to 24 inches. That length includes their tail. On average, they weigh somewhere around 1 to 1.5 pounds. But again, this can vary based on their diet and genetics. How long do they live? Their life expectancy depends on their environment and diet. Bearded dragons living in optimal conditions with proper care can live anywhere between 10 to 15 years. However, most of them die younger due to improper lighting, housing, temperatures, and nutrition. What are some common health problems they're prone to? Bearded dragons are generally very hardy and aren't prone to many health issues if properly cared for. However, they are susceptible to a few. Metabolic bone disease is one of the most common health problems in captive bearded dragons. This condition is caused by a lack of vitamin D3 or calcium in their diet. MBD causes soft and weak bones, resulting in skeletal deformities, seizures, and death. Another issue that bearded dragons can face is disectisis, which is a fancy way of saying they can't shed their skin. This happens for a variety of reasons, such as low humidity, dehydration, and improper temperatures. Impaction is another problem that these guys can face, which occurs when they eat something that they shouldn't or they don't consume enough water. This causes the food to sit in their digestive system and not pass through properly. Bearded dragons can also be prone to parasites, especially if you got them from a mass mill type operation or a pet store. Parasites typically cause weight loss, lethargy, and diarrhea. Some parasites are passed through the feces in the bearded dragon's enclosure, while others are airborne. Other less common but still important illnesses include mouth rot, eye infections, ear infections, rickets, and salmonella. Of course, there are many other illnesses and conditions that bearded dragons can face, but these are just a few that are commonly seen. Now that we've covered what bearded dragons are like as pets, their size, lifespan, and common health problems, let's answer the most frequently asked question: how much do they cost? This is where things start to get complicated. The price of a bearded dragon varies widely depending on their age, size, color, and whether or not they're a purebred. You'll typically pay anywhere between $50 for a baby to $150 for an adult. Bearded dragons from pet stores are usually more expensive because they're captive bred. Wild-caught bearded dragons tend to be cheaper, but it's not always the case. Prices can also fluctuate depending on where you live. For example, bearded dragons are cheaper in the United States than they are in Canada. It really all depends on supply and demand. Even though it might be tempting to buy from a pet store or an irresponsible mass mill type breeder, it's best to seek out a reputable breeder that raises healthy, well-socialized dragons. In addition to being more expensive, pet store dragons often have genetic problems, bad temperaments, parasites, and other health concerns. My advice would be to buy the most expensive dragon you can afford. It's better to spend a little bit more money on a quality dragon than to deal with a sick or problematic one later on. Alright, now that we've gone through the basics, let me give you a few tips to ensure your bearded dragon has a long, healthy life. First, we'll talk about housing. Bearded dragons should be housed individually once they're adults. I wouldn't house them together because they can fight, especially if there's a hierarchy established. They're usually fine if housed together as babies or juveniles, but eventually they'll need to be separated. A 40-gallon breeder tank is the smallest I would recommend for an adult, but a 75 or 125-gallon aquarium would be ideal. In terms of lighting, I use a combination of UVB and heat. UVB rays help your dragon synthesize calcium and vitamin D3. Without it, they'll develop metabolic bone disease. I recommend a 10.0 UVB bulb, meaning it gives off a medium amount of UV rays. Heat is also very important. Bearded dragons are cold-blooded, which means they rely on external sources for heat. Since they're a desert-dwelling species, they require a hot spot around 95 degrees Fahrenheit and a cool side around 75 degrees. These temperatures can be achieved using a heat lamp or a heat mat. Just make sure that the heat source can be turned off and on so you can regulate the temperature throughout the day. I also recommend a thermal carpet, which is just a fancy way of saying it's a heating pad made specifically for reptiles. Thermal carpets are great for maintaining a basking temperature and can be placed under the basking area. Make sure to hide the cord so your dragon doesn't chew on it and receive a shock. Bearded dragons are escape artists, so I recommend securing the lid with a screen. A screen will allow for better airflow and won't trap in moisture, which can lead to mold and bacteria. If you want to go the extra mile, you can add a lock to prevent your dragon from opening it. Lastly, substrate choice is crucial. Your dragon may ingest substrate material, so it's important to use something safe. I use a mix of topsoil, cocoa fiber, and play sand. Avoid using cedar or pine wood chips as they contain harmful chemicals that can kill your dragon. Plants are also a great addition to any vivarium as they help clean the air and provide enrichment. Many plants are safe for bearded dragons to eat, such as dandelions, oak leaf lettuce, hibiscus, and more. If you want to learn more about plants that are safe for your dragon, I'll link a video below. The next thing I'll discuss is their diet. Bearded dragons are omnivores, meaning they eat both plants and animals. When it comes to feeding them meat, I recommend feeding them insects such as dubia roaches, crickets, and mealworms. Gut loading and dusting your insects is important. Gut loading is the process of feeding your insects nutrient-rich food so your dragon receives maximum nutrition. Dusting is also important as it allows you to add calcium and vitamin D3 supplements. Bearded dragons are also able to eat fruits and vegetables, but it should only make up 20% of their diet. Leafy greens, squash, and sweet potato are great options. Finally, commercial foods such as salads and vegetables are a nice supplement and can be given daily. Make sure to remove any uneaten food after a few hours so it doesn't spoil and rot in their enclosure. The last tip I'll give you is to handle your bearded dragon often. They're very docile and make great pets for kids. Handling your dragon regularly will help them become tame and used to human interaction. Just remember to wash your hands before and after handling your dragon to prevent the spread of germs and bacteria. Thanks for watching. Hopefully this video was helpful for those of you looking to get a bearded dragon in the future. I also hope that it helped current owners understand the needs of their dragons a little bit better. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button. It helps the video reach more people. Also, consider subscribing for more reptile videos. Thanks for watching and we'll see you next time.